everyone! As you may know if you're a regular viewer of this channel, this is a big year for me because I have a very big birthday coming up in September. I'm going to be 40. As you can imagine, knowing that I am entering another decade later this year has made me quite philosophical, and it's made me look at my life and do all that deep and meaningful stuff that, you know, can sometimes lead to badness. I'm getting closer to death! Thinking about turning 40 later this year got me to, philosophizing about the things people expect you to have achieved by a certain point in life and how much most of that makes me really mad. Because you see, to me, life isn't a checklist that you're supposed to be ticking off at certain points. Yep, I've achieved that by this age. Oh, and I've achieved this by that age. Why am I doing this with my left hand when I'm right-handed? I don't know. That's much more comfortable. Maybe when I turn 40, I'm going to become left-handed. What I'm saying is, I don't believe in these things you must have achieved by this age lists. However, that doesn't mean I didn't think it would be a good idea for a video. So what I did earlier was I looked on my laptop and I found about 5 or 6 different things you should have achieved by the time you're 40 lists. And if they had the same thing on multiple lists, I made a little note in my phone and I thought we'd go through them now and see just how many of them I've achieved to make me feel really good about myself. I'm going to start off by pointing out that basically everything on this list assumes that you're either married or divorced. So, I am neither of those things and that's fine. Again, life isn't about ticking things off a checklist by a certain age, and the other thing that annoys me about these lists of you should have done this by this point in your life is that not everybody ticks everything on the list ever, and that's also fine. I will come back to what I think is the most important thing to have achieved by a certain age at the end of this video, but for the time being, let's see what the list says. So while I was searching, I looked at a lot of specifically female lists and they made me really, really angry. Because on multiple lists of the things that women should have done by the time they turn 40 was get rid of any clothing that is no longer suitable for your age. Here's the deal, people. I wear whatever I feel comfortable in. If I get up in the morning and I think it's a jeggings and a jumper kind of day, I'm going to wear jeggings and a jumper. If I get up and I think I want to wear a nice dress and, some pretty little heels, then that's what I'm going to do. My age has absolutely nothing to do with what I wear. And the things that were on these lists, like no woman over 40 should be seen dead in a hair scrunchie. What? Some people have long hair and they need to tie them back, and some people have very thick hair and tying it back with a little elastic band is just going to cause that band to go snap. So, just what? Why are we policing what women put in their hair? What I'm saying is, if you identify as female and people are telling you that by this point in your life you shouldn't be wearing this, and you should be wearing this, you go tell them to screw themselves. Because you can wear whatever the heck you feel comfortable in. And that is a piece of branded Emma advice. Emma advice! Now the next one was only on a couple of the lists I saw, but my god, did it annoy me. It's own your own home. Yeah, let's talk about the living wage that we don't have here in the UK and, energy bills that are going up because the Tories have been in power for ages and they don't care about anyone but themselves and lining their own pockets. And let's just think about the fact that house prices have gone up and up and up and up whilst wages have stayed down here. I mean, I'm 40 this year and I live at home because I can't even afford to rent, so there's the world I live in. It would be marvellous to own my own home. I would absolutely love to own my own home. But I think saying that you should have achieved it by 40 when house prices are really high is just dumb. I mean, put it this way, one of the houses we lived in when I was a kid, and we lived in Cambridgeshire, I'm pretty sure that cost my parents about 30 grand. These things have changed, and they have changed beyond the means of most people of my generation. Yes, it's great when you can own a home. If you can't, you should not be made to feel rubbish about yourself. So I have actually achieved the next one on this list, which is very exciting because it's eat out at a Michelin-starred restaurant. Or, if you're not in the UK, some of the lists I saw said one of the 100 best restaurants in the world. Again, a lot of this list is like, do things that cost a lot of money! Anyway, I have eaten at a Michelin-starred restaurant. I've eaten at a couple of Michelin-starred restaurants. My favourite one is number 6 in Padstow, and once upon a time when they had a much cheaper set menu, I even paid for my family to go there a couple of times. Nowadays, I would need to take out a loan, but you know, I have fond memories of the food I ate there, and one day, maybe, if I'm ever wealthy, I will eat there again. The next one on the list is travel to several countries. I reworded this because on some lists it was travel to this specific place. You should have travelled to this specific place by the time you're 40. And on a couple of the lists I read, it was you should go travelling with the one you love. And since travel was a universal theme throughout all of the lists I found of things you supposedly should have done by the time you turn 40, I figured I would just have a generic one on this list. I've been really fortunate in that I have travelled a bit, probably nowhere near as much as some people have. I've certainly been to a few places across Europe, such as France and Germany, Italy, Cyprus, Czechia. I nearly said the Czech Republic, but they changed their name and I remembered. And I've been around America a little bit, I've been to Canada, but I would definitely like to visit more places. But again, you need money to go places. Also, you know, currently I probably wouldn't go on an aeroplane because that's just a big tube of COVID germs. This next one was only on a couple of the lists that I read, but it touched a nerve, so I added it. It's have a baby or know the unconditional love of a child. I mean, if you're reading that and you have a medical condition that means you can't have children, or if you're reading that and you're someone who's chosen that they don't want to have children, you know, I guess sucks to be you. I really don't like it when it's something as personal as that and people are saying, you should have achieved this by this age, because no, I don't think we should ever be like, by the time you reach this age, you should have had some children, because, you know, that's a very big decision and you should be very sure it's what you want and that you are prepared to commit to being a parent for, you know, the rest of your life. Also, it's a touchy one for me because I always wanted children. I was one of those very annoying kids who, when they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, a mummy just like my mummy. That didn't happen, spoiler alert, but I do have the best nephew in the world, so, you know, I know the unconditional love of a child, so I'm doing okay. This next one was on a lot of the lists, and I'm confused as to why, but it's mentor someone in your job. Apparently by the time you reach 40 you should be so good in your career that you are taking someone under your wing and teaching them how to do their job. I only work with one other person now. I mean, she is younger than me. Maybe I could just mentor Leslie. Like, hey Leslie, do you want me to teach you to use Final Cut? I mean, I'm not going to mentor her in anything she actually knows anything about, like graphic design, because I'd be terrible at it. The next one is one I kind of do agree with actually, which is shocking. It's take up a hobby. Now, I do think by the time you reach a certain point in your life, you should do things for yourself, because life can be quite stressful, and some people who get to 40 do have children, and they might need to do something just for themselves, and so taking up a hobby is a really good idea. It's also a way to make new friends and to potentially get healthier, depending on what your hobby of choice is. Obviously, if it's, join a cake club and just eat cake all day once a week, maybe you won't get healthier, but I bet that would be fun. Obviously, I took up a hobby before I turned 40. I joined chorus, and that was one of the best things I've ever done. So yes, go take up a hobby, 40-something-year-olds. Emma advice. The last one that was on quite a few of the different lists, and believe me, I cut many things that made me enraged, is something I actually do agree with, and this is basically what my list would consist of on its own. If someone said to me, Emma, what should you have achieved by the time you're 40? This would basically be the only thing I'd say, and that is learn to be happy in yourself and to appreciate the things you have in your life. Because at the end of the day, like I said, life is not some big tick list that you're supposed to sit there going, oh yes, I've achieved this by the time I'm 25, and I've done this by 30, and I've done this by 40. And if it was like that, how boring. I mean, everybody is individual. Everybody does things in their own time, and some people choose not to do certain things, and that's absolutely fine. You could turn 40 and decide, you know what, I'm going to go and live in a hut in the middle of a rainforest. And that would be just as fine as it would be if you reached 40 and went, oh my god, I must immediately get married and have babies! So yeah, I am going to be 40 this year, and I think that last thing is probably one of the hardest things to do in life, and it's because of things like this list. Because society tells us constantly that by a certain point you should have done certain things, and that's a load of bull.
No.
You live your own life on your own schedule, and you do things that make you happy, and if it's not what society expects of you, then screw society. What do you think? Are these lists just complete ridiculousness? Or maybe you're somebody who does genuinely think, by the time I reach this age, I have to have achieved these things? Let me know in the comments. I feel like I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to end this video now. Wow, I think I ended the last one because my throat was getting scratchy as well. I clearly need to have some Manuka honey or something. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. You can click on my aging floaty head up there. And last week's video is over here. I am off to think of all the wonderful things I could do with my life, however long I have left. Wow, that got dark. And I will talk to you all next week. Bye!